Brad Garlinghouse sitting down with CNBC talking about stablecoins, XRP, and the future of digital finance. Let's jump in. Of course, I will give you feedback and input when I think it is necessary. Just wanted to say, have a truly fantastic day, guys. So much incredible news has been coming in. Thank you for the support from the bottom of my heart. I hope you're learning. I hope you're growing. Let's get this together. Let's go.
Discussion by talking a little bit about stablecoins. It's a very hot topic and the market is booming. JP Morgan has estimated that in a couple of years, the market could be worth as much as 750 billion with a B. And a lot of
Hold on a second. The current stablecoin market right now is roughly $308 or $310 billion. You're telling me in a couple of years it's going to 1x, 2x? Citibank has projected that the stablecoin market could go from 1.6 to 1.9 trillion in the next 3 to 5 years. So I don't know what numbers she's using. She didn't sound very confident in those numbers. I just wanted to give you that context so you understood before we entered this.
Crypto native players and crypto players are jumping into the fray to offer these tokens. Now, I bring this up because I know that there's the Ripple linked RLUSD that launched last December. I'm wondering how you see RLUSD fitting into this landscape, the stablecoin landscape that's increasingly competitive.
Yeah. Look, I think the estimates around the size of the stablecoin market are actually understated. So I've seen numbers ranging from 750 billion all the way up to 3 or 4 trillion.
Yeah, exactly.
I think when you step back and think about what problem is being solved, it's a big problem, and whether it's a corporate, whether it's individuals, making money move the way information moves today is powerful. Making it easy for them to pay each other, pay for things, cross-border. These are all very powerful things where you have trillions of dollars flowing. And so when you see markets that big, I can see a lot of capital continuing to flow to this market. As you pointed out, Ripple is launched our stablecoin just under a year ago. We just passed $1 billion market cap. So in 10 months, we're very happy with the progress. Ripple is always focused on that kind of institutional use case. So we're integrating RLUSD in our payment flows where it makes sense, where a corridor or a currency pair is more efficient to use a stablecoin than it might be to use XRP. And we want to make sure we're solving the customer problem as efficiently and as inexpensively as possible. Sometimes stablecoin's the way to do that. So I think the whole market's going to grow. Ripple, I think, has an exciting play within that. There's obviously some other very successful players, which we welcome, and I think the whole market can grow a lot. I focus a little less on the size of the piece we have as opposed to the overall market. If the overall market grows, I think we're going to do well.
Really quickly, just to give you some additional context, because I have new friends jumping into the crypto market and they have loads of questions. One of the questions was, is XRP going to be useful now that stablecoins are becoming more of a norm in financial institutions? And so, yes, XRP is still going to be needed, especially if that is RLUSD transactions on the XRP ledger. XRP is the gas token. RLUSD is spread between Ethereum and the XRP ledger. 90% of RLUSD is on Ethereum, but the ecosystem for XRP and RLUSD is starting to expand. The reason here is over the last 4 years when Ripple was going through the court case, you didn't have a lot of development and liquidity coming into the XRP ecosystem. Most people didn't think Ripple and XRP were going to make it through that whole ordeal. And so now that they got clarity, they got the court ruling on their side, now you're having this explosion of development. And this is where we're going to see more liquidity coming in. And this is where we're going to see RLUSD on the XRP ledger start to expand. Just wanted to give you that context.
Right. Now, could you delve a little bit more into the distribution plan for RLUSD?
So for us, the distribution plan around RLUSD is more focused on the institutional use case, on institutional collateral. We now have an asset in Ripple Prime, a prime brokerage platform, where people can use RLUSD as good regulatory collateral. So there's examples where we think it'll drive demand for RLUSD that's differentiated compared to some of the other stablecoins.
Got it. Now, shifting gears a little bit, I also want to talk about regulations. Ripple's a big player on Capitol Hill, and leading up to the presidential elections, you guys donated tens of millions of dollars to the super PAC Fair Shake. And under President Donald Trump, you guys have been present on a lot of discussions on the Hill. So I'm kind of just wondering, based on what has already been achieved, the ratcheting back of regulations, the overhaul of the CFTC and the SEC, Ripple's case that was brought by the SEC being dropped, what else are you looking to achieve in the next couple of years, particularly in the lead up to the midterms?
Yeah. I mean, Liz, I'll start just by saying it never made sense to me that this became a partisan issue.
Yeah.
Somehow the Biden administration was very hostile towards crypto. It never really kind of made sense. Like, we as a society in the United States should embrace new technologies that can actually put the United States at the forefront of innovation. Now, how those technologies are used is something we should, talk about and make sure they're used appropriately.
Yes.
Ripple's always been a kind of compliance-first company, but you're very right. Ripple leaned into supporting a Fair Shake, a super PAC, and Fair Shake supported candidates on both sides
Yes,
of the
they
aisle
did.
who were pro-innovation and pro-crypto, because we feel like it's something the industry has been clamoring for. We want regulatory clarity. We want to make sure we are acting, but we've been asking for, give us clear rules of the road so that when we're doing things, we know we're doing them appropriately. And the Biden administration and Gary Gensler in the SEC was kind of resisting that clarity. And I think now we're seeing a very constructive engagement with government,
Absolutely,
with both Dems and Republicans, to bring forward things like the Genius Act, which already passed, provided stablecoin clarity so you can see that market grow and see the United States lead in that market. What we still haven't yet seen, which hopefully as the government opens up again,
Clarity Act.
The Clarity Act is something that's being discussed to provide the clarity around what is a digital asset, what's a security, what's a commodity, and that we hope that other assets have what XRP fought for in the courts to be declared not a security, but others in the industry don't have that clarity that the XRP has.
Donald Trump.
That is an interesting point, and I'm sorry to kind of give you this initial context, but right now, you're starting to see a lot of announcements and partnerships around Ripple and XRP. Why? Because XRP has that clarity from a judge where the rest of the industry doesn't quite yet have that. So what kind of edge does that give Ripple and XRP right now? Yes, the price is still a few dollars and it's going down and sideways and the market is this and the market is that. I understand that, but I am not thinking about today or tomorrow. I'm thinking about 2, 3, 5 years down the road. I made a commitment when I bought XRP to hold this and see this through until we reach a place where I don't have to worry about money anymore. And I firmly believe in my heart and soul that I have bet on the right company, the right ecosystem, and the right community.
Trump had also spoken, I think a few months at least ago, about creating some type of strategic crypto reserve and potentially even buying cryptocurrencies, including XRP.
Nothing happened.
Have there been any discussions on that subject?
Not publicly.
The past couple of weeks, months, has it been revisited? It seems like the issue was kind of dropped and then there hasn't really been much news there.
I haven't heard anything new about that. I mean, I think it's an interesting dynamic because we as a society, I think, should always be keeping up with technologies. And obviously, we have a gold reserve and the hundreds of billions of dollars of gold. And if these are new stores of value that are strategic to the country, should we have a strategic crypto reserve of some kind? And that should, I think, be anchored by Bitcoin. I think that makes sense. Obviously, there's some work on that done in the spring. I haven't heard the latest on where we are as a government in implementing that.
Now, shifting gears.
I'll give you an update here. So when Trump got elected, in the first few months, there was a lot of talk about crypto. And so they did the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, and then they wanted to support US innovations. But the issue here is when you do things by executive order, where you don't involve the Congress and Senate, you can't use taxpayer money to do anything, right? And so there's no money behind the order. You can set up these reserves, that's great, but you cannot buy any of these assets. The only way the US government can get XRP or Solana or ADA is if they confiscate it from somebody doing something illegal or they're not supposed to. And then we still don't have a really good understanding of what the government actually holds, where it is, right? Like what currencies they are. In the last 9 or 10 months, I have been kind of disappointed because you have David Sachs, the crypto czar, and you have all of these other people running around talking all of these great things about crypto, but nobody has given the public any information of where the government stands, what the plan is going forward, and how are you actually going to support American innovation. So I just, I'll leave that with you guys. Let me know what you think down below. They talked about revaluing gold certificates to possibly buy Bitcoin. You do have Senator Loomis and a bunch of Bitcoin maximalists supporting money into some of these people that are now pushing the president to only focus around Bitcoin. I think that would be a strategic mistake. You want to be supporting the American innovation. You want to be supporting Chainlink. You want to be supporting Ripple and XRP. You want to be supporting Stellar. You want to be supporting Cardano. These are the companies that are building the future and innovation. Bitcoin, we don't know who's creating it. There's a select few people that are going to just make even more money. Why are we going to support them? We should be supporting American innovation. That's how I feel. Let me know what you think down below.
Again, because it's been such a big year for Ripple, I would love to talk about the acquisitions. You guys have done about $4 billion worth of acquisitions so far. You had the Hidden Road one that was worth $1.2 billion for the prime brokerage. And you had the G Treasury, there's another north of $1 billion deal. The $200 million acquisition of the Stablecoin platform. How do all these acquisitions fit into your corporate strategy, particularly under President Trump and this pro-digital asset era in the States?
So I'll start just by saying I think that people still underestimate the largest economy in the world, 22% of global GDP, the United States, used to lean out on crypto, and now we're leaning in. And I think people underestimate how big a shift that is and what the impact's going to be on the crypto market overall. When I see that, and I think that people haven't quite caught up to what that's going to mean, it means that I want to see Ripple invest in that future and get ahead of where that market's going. So you're right, we have aggressively leaned in and made multiple, multi-billion-dollar acquisitions. Hidden Road G Treasury being the biggest. But for us, we've always tried to be that bridge between a decentralized financial world and the centralized or traditional financial world. And Ripple's been building bridges between them. So the assets we have been buying have been on the traditional finance side, so we can bring crypto-enabled solutions to that traditional financial world. G Treasury is managing literally trillions of dollars of payments for corporate treasurers, and the ability to introduce to them, here are crypto-enabled solutions that are faster, cheaper, more efficient. That's a good thing for everybody.
Ripple had explored the idea of going public in foreign markets, particularly at a time that the regulatory climate was quite difficult in the U.S. Now a lot has changed, so now we have President Trump. He's very pro-digital assets. Again, the CFTC and the SEC have been completely overhauled. Would you consider going public in the foreign market still, or are you now more U.S. focused? Are you considering doing an IPO in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Not anytime soon.
If Ripple were to prioritize going public today, we would definitely look at the U.S. markets. They're the deepest markets, the broadest markets, the most efficient markets. So I think we would prioritize that. When we were talking about that before, we actually had exchanges from other countries around the world courting us, because the U.S. was so, I think, illogically hostile towards this industry.
Well said.
Now, that being said, going public still isn't a short-term priority for us. We always kind of keep an eye on that, and maybe at some point we will. But for now, we're focused on building. And we have the balance sheet that's allowed us to make these multi-billion-dollar acquisitions and to continue to grow the business. We've also been able to return liquidity to shareholders. This year, we've completed over $2 billion of tender offers, so we're buying shares back from our shareholders. So that's getting liquidity to some of our early investors. And so far, we feel like we're in a good place on that, but we'll obviously continue to watch and make decisions.
Discussion.
So a few things here, right? Ripple isn't interested in IPOing right now. The market is a little hectic, right? The economy might not be doing as great as a lot of people think it is. And so Ripple's not going to IPO in a market that they're unsure of what's going to happen. I would imagine an IPO is 2027, 2028. They're not even thinking about it. When a company IPOs, it usually means they need money. Ripple is not in that position. I have watched hundreds of interviews by Brad and other people at Ripple, and anytime an IPO is brought up, not interested right now. That tells me this is not a priority for them moving forward. Coming back to the G Treasury question, G Treasury is $12.5 trillion a year in clearing for corporate treasury customers. They have 1,000 of the biggest companies in the world now connected through that. And what I want you to understand here is when you start offering these services to these companies, right? The companies that are competing against these top companies are now at a deficit because they don't have this technology where they can move value instantaneously at the speed of light. They can put their money to work. They can make interest off it 24/7. There's just so many more things that they can start doing. So each one of these companies now that is partnered with G Treasury and Ripple will have those added benefits of everything the XRP ledger delivers. And that is going to put pressure on the rest of the industry to start using technologies that Ripple has to offer. And I think this could be a major boom going forward. All right. Spicy. That was a great interview by CNBC. Of course, I would have maybe asked a few different questions, but all good. I kept getting distracted by her hair clip. It's so big, but great job all the way around. I did want to go ahead and play this because I thought this was a spicy clip. This is from the Brad Garlinghouse fireside interview. This is Bloomberg Crypto. Let me play this clip.
It's not surprising then that the banking industry is not exactly thrilled about this.
The bank doesn't want competition because they've done a shitty job of serving their customers.
Let's go. That was the best part.
The bank lobby is urging the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency to deny applications from crypto firms that are seeking these charters. What would you say to that?
I'd say the same thing. By the way, I mean very seriously. I think Brent McIntosh is a fabulous guy, great chief legal officer, but like you can't have it both ways. Don't ask us to be regulated as a full bank and then not give us the resources that allow us to provide services and reduce risk, et cetera. Look, I truly believe, I've already talked about Coinbase and Circle, competition is good for the market. Competition is good for customers. Why would we be anti-competitive? I would happily be on any panel with any member of the bank lobby or bank executives, and customers deserve choice.
Everyone's protecting their vested interests.
I don't think Ripple's trying to protect their vested interests. We're playing offense and saying we want to grow, we want to build products and services that customers want. Look, I understand, but like once you see an industry go into defense,
listen,
that's the death of an industry. Like I think you have to innovate, you have to lead, and I think the banking industry has to defense. That's the death of an industry. Like I think you have to innovate, you have to lead, and I think the banking industry has been on their back heels, and I think that's why crypto now exists. People want an alternative. People want the flexibility. We saw a great panel from the National Cryptocurrency Association with a woman up here talking about the benefit of having 24/7 access to your money. By the way, I'm guessing everybody in here has some story. I certainly do. When I go on, I execute a wire, and it takes me literally 30 minutes just to actually get the wire out. It's nuts.
30 minutes is an improvement from what it was 5 years ago.
All right, guys, listen, I did a complete rundown, the whole chat. It's already out on my channel. If you're interested to catch up with what was said, my opinion on it, go take a look at that content. Now, listen, I'm going to wrap this video up. We are running a little bit over here. I have a ton more content. If you like XRP, you like Ripple, you like the crypto industry, this is the channel for you. It's a pleasure being here and spending this time with you guys. I'll see you in the next one. I'm Crypto Sensei. Aloha.